Hi everyone, this is Tim Cruikshank, Bud's Class 182. I'd like to say a quick prayer for the Navy SEAL community. If everyone could please bow their heads. Almighty God, we are grateful for your divine hand upon us in peace and in conflict. As we lift our prayers to you today, we recognize that you bring fair winds and calm seas to our lives. You go before us and protect us. You have chosen us to be warrior guardians, always ready to defend those who are unable to defend themselves, and to uphold the ideals of being in a brotherhood. You have made us, God, as David's, to stand up alone, fortifying us to face impossible odds, to stand up and challenge the Goliaths of this world. Together, God, we ask you to continually deepen our loyalty, honor, courage, discipline, respect, and excellence, that we may never waver. You say in Proverbs 2:8, "For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones." Today we acknowledge that you are our great protector who never abandons us. As King David said in Psalms 46:1, "God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble." Today my fellow brothers in the SEAL community need that covering. Instill in them your strength, your courage. Bestow your wisdom and discernment in them. Today we declare Psalm 62:2 over all who wear the trident. Truly God is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress and I will never be shaken. Lastly, we lift up our prayers for those who shore up each SEAL in the community. Lord, be with those they love, their parents, spouses, children, and friends. We pray you would bring your joy, hope, and encouragement to their families. In their absence, give their families at-home provision for their needs and strength to manage their homes alone. Help them to trust you when they're tempted to give in to fear, to take their thoughts captive to your truth and to rest in your sovereignty and goodness. Comfort them in loneliness and anchor them in your unchanging love. Lord, we are grateful that you hear our prayers. Please continue to bless the members of our community. Give them courage, hope, and strength. May they ever experience your firm support and compassionate healing. Be their power and protector, leading them from darkness to light. Be their rock, their shield, and their stronghold. Let them draw their strength from you. For you are God, for you ever and ever. We ask this through Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
Good morning from Fort Pierce, Florida, home of the Navy SEAL Museum. I'm Bob Guzzo, Bud's Class 104 and President of the Navy SEALs Fund. Welcome to Frogman Down 2023. Each year we gather at Memorial Day weekend to remember our fallen and honor their legacy. This year we recognize teammates that we lost on the battlefield as well as losing off the battlefield. Today we'd like to pay special recognition to Dan Taco Cirillo and his dedication to giving back to our brothers in the fight to find healing with mental and physical wounds. Following is his testimony of trials, triumphs, and never give up attitude that he shared at the Brotherhood Beyond the Battlefield event last year at Virginia Beach, Virginia. Dan's love for his teammates, fellow service members, and their families was felt by many. He transformed his own life and paid it forward in transforming the lives of others. His legacy will live on. If you or anyone you know is hurting or in need of help, there is hope. Please reach out. Know that you're not alone.
Some of you guys know me in the teams. My nickname was Taco. I don't really kind of talk about that part anymore. I'm Dan. You know, being a team guy, doing missions, doing the things I did, you know, being part of a lot of really cool things, all that was really great for me, right? I got to be the first doing a lot of stuff, but there was also things that happened during those times where you end up figuring out how to make it work and how to make it elongate and how to make the family work and whatever, and in your brain, you're an expert. You say, oh, I'm the best at everything that I do. And the fact of the matter is everything's falling apart. So I got out of the teams. I got blown up in Solder City. Drago was there. I learned what leave no man behind is. You know, he drugged me out of the doorway. I was blind, I was deaf, My lung was collapsed. I was beat up pretty good, and underneath me is a bad guy who's cut in half from a breaching charge. And, I loved it. That's who I was. What woke me up was Justin Legg grabbed my night vision, my head hit the ground, he goes, he's dead. And I'm like, I'm not dead. And fuck that, let's go. I'm still in this thing, I just can't see, so just give me my gun and point me in the direction I need to go, That's kind of my attitude for a long time. And then one day it was over. My body wasn't working anymore. I went right back over as soon as I lied. I took pills, drank vodka, went back to Mosul a few months later, got to do the greatest deployment probably ever I can imagine. And like Admiral was saying, I came home to my wife, basically 12 hours after a firefight. I went out, we were in it all night long, came home with bloody camis, and hey honey, I'm home. That was kind of my life. And I got lucky enough to enter into a program to go do the same thing that team guys do, only as a civilian, and get paid a tremendous amount more money. And you sit in this high level for a long time thinking you're just a badass warrior. And that's what it was. And I got to go from there into executive protection, working for one of the richest guys in the world, then going to work for the richest guy in the world, and then finally going into work for Sergey Brin, the third richest guy in the world, being part of his personal staff. And so everything is success, right? And everybody around you is like, oh man, you're so successful, you're making money, you're doing all these things. And for the most part, everything was successful. The problem was, I was on the outside doing everything right. And as soon as everybody would walk away, I would drink. Now, I've always drank. We're team guys, right? Partied it up, we boozed it up really hard. Difference was I was boozing it up at a level that was unimaginable. I had a lot of money, so I drank really good tequila. And by the time it was at its peak, I was drinking 2 bottles of tequila a day and smoking about 4 bowls and telling everybody how to be a great husband and a great father and a great leader. And it was completely and totally full of shit. That's the reality. I went from being the #1 employee at Bayshore Global, and Bayshore Global is the parent company to Google, which is the parent company to Alphabet, which is the parent company to Google. And I went there from being the #1 employee, getting a bonus check that basically you could go buy any house that I wanted, to being told we'd fire you if your wife didn't have cancer. And in that moment, the only thing I wanted to do was die. Like, how did I even get here? And something miraculous happened. So this life-changing experience happened. You gotta remember, I'm this guy who, like a lot of you guys, counseling is poo-poo, mommy daddy issues are poo-poo, suppression is bullshit, blah, 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 blah. That was my attitude. So suck it up, buttercup, get in the gym, jack steel. I did some Ironmans to kind of make myself cry and get all the fucking stuff out of there and get back to work. And all of a sudden, at the peak of everything that's going wrong, I mean, I'm telling you, everything is going wrong at this point. My family hates me, and my wife has essentially kicked me out of the house. I'm living with some girl who just lets me drink all day long. I can't even read or write an email anymore, and I don't even give a shit. I was asked to write a paper. So they called me and they said, hey, we want to write a paper. And Jonathan talked about Brotherhood, and it was another SEAL. He was my boss. He's a SEAL officer, and he said, hey, I want you to research this program called MAPS, M-A-P-S. All right, whatever. I've always been a really good writer. And so I tried to write the paper. I couldn't do it. So I flew home to my wife, tail between my legs, and I said, hey, can you help me? And she's like, whatever, I'll help you, And she wrote the paper for me. So I turned the paper in. Next thing you know, I get called into the CEO's office thinking I'm gonna get fired because my wife is not a good writer. I'm a college nerd, I like to write. And George said, what do you think? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, do you think we should do this? I was like, I don't think anything else is gonna work, George. Because at this point, I've tried every type of therapy there is on my own, what nobody was knowing about, to try to fix what was going on. Tried to go cold turkey 4 or 5 times. I've tried alpha stem. I've tried hyperbaric. I've tried everything. And the only thing that mattered was I just wanted to drink. And I just wanted to fucking kill people. And I wanted to not be alive. And I wanted to not have I just wanted to be left the fuck alone. And next thing you know, that man right over there walked in and he started talking. And he gave a speech. And for the most part, I pretty much ignored him because he's just some doctor. And he's talking about, mental issues and all this shit going on in the brain. I'm like, yeah, whatever, And then something really, really crazy happened. A wife stood up and she told the story of her husband She told the story of how much she hated him, what a terrible husband he was before he went to this therapy, and how she did everything she could just to stay with him just for his kids. And in that moment, I heard my wife's voice. And I went home and I flew home. I go, tell me about me. And my wife looked at me, and my wife is my beloved queen. She said, I hate you. She said, I fucking hate you. She's like, all you give a shit about is your ego. She's like, you're embarrassment. She's like, I can't take you anywhere that you start in fights. She's like, I don't know why you're even here. You should just go back overseas and just go fucking kill people. That's the only thing that made you happy. She's like, that was the only time you've ever been happy in your life. And so this whole time, I'm thinking I have this PTSD from the war, right? Because that's what everybody tells you. And so I talked to Dr. Polanco and I pulled him aside and I said, hey man, I have a problem. And he's like, I know. I'm like, what do you mean you know? He goes, all of you are like this. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, all of you. And that hit me so hard because I'm the big, proud, fucking tough guy, right? I'm the brawler. I'm the fucking breacher. I'm the fucking guy who let's go. I always go. I always led everything. I was always number one. And I'm like, you mean there's other dudes? He's like, all I treat is SEALs. That's it. He's like, I don't even treat anybody else but SEALs. And I said, I think I need this, man. Like, I have a really fucking bad problem. And so I decided to take a chance, and I've never taken drugs, you know. Smoking weed wasn't really a drug to me. To me, it was just a way for me to wouldn't attack people. It kept me calm enough to not rip people's heads off. And so we went down to Mexico, and I took this drug called ibogaine. And so I want to talk about that because it's important to understand how that got to where we are today. Because there's this stigma about hallucinogenics. People are like, oh man, you took a hallucinogenic? Hey, you fucking hippie or whatever, blah, 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 right? And it's like, yeah, I took it. I took the blue pill, 3 of them as a matter of fact. So I went down to Mexico, a 2-bottle-a-day tequila guy, smoking about 4 bowls, and I could still drink wine on top of that. Whatever I've done drinking my tequila, whatever was still, I could just keep going. That's a tolerance level that I had. I went down to Mexico, and I had this experience in this journey that absolutely blew me away. I went down there thinking that I was gonna have all these war memories. I was one of those guys who got to do a lot of missions, you know? I got to be in Iraq and Afghanistan. I got to just do a lot. And it was the first time I ever spoke about one of the missions. It was the very first time I took somebody's life, and the next day he told me it was the wrong guy. And how I had to deal with that on my own. I went into my room and I cried. Because I'm embarrassed to cry around the guys. It's what happens when you do things. You know, you're operating, shit happens, and yeah, I did that. And it wasn't the fact of what I did, it was the fact of how his son looked at me after I killed his dad. And I carried his son into the room, and it haunted me. And so it was the first time I'd ever talked about it. And so I took the pills, and I expected all these war memories to come out, and none of it. Not one war memory. It was all childhood. It was all these memories of how hard my childhood was. And I didn't even remember it. I actually thought I made it up. So for 36 hours, I'm kind of going through this. They call it a journey, and it sure as shit was a journey, a magic carpet ride through cities and forests and space and time. And I would stop, and these computer files would open, and all these pictures would go, and they're terrible, you know? And things that were just atrocious of what I was like, oh my God, did this really happen? And I kind of went through that, and the next morning when you kind of come out of this daze, I was in this place of why did all these things happen to these 2 little boys, me and my brother? And you kind of go in that phase for about 4 hours. And then the next 4 hours, I was like, who gives a shit? You couldn't hurt me. You can't burn me. You can't starve me. You can't freeze me. You can't beat me. You can't call me anything that's never been happened before. And then it went into, I don't really care. I don't really care. And then 4 hours later, it was, thank you. Thank you for all of that, Mom. Thank you for all of it. Because that's why I'm a fucking team guy. That's why I went through BUDS in the first try. That's why I fucking did everything. I was always at the fucking head of the line. Nothing ever derailed me in my SEAL career. And I was actually thankful for it. And the next phase was complete and total forgiveness. I forgive you. I forgive you for everything you ever did to me, and I forgive everybody. Because I don't want to hate people anymore. I don't want to be so full of fucking anger that I can't even walk into a room, can't even be in a crowd of people. And I was so thankful, like, it made sense to me. And it was the first time I slept in about a year and a half. And I told Dr. Planko I was wearing a watch at this time to track my sleep, because they say when you're below an hour of sleep a night, you're probably within 1 year of your death. And I was sleeping about 45 minutes a night. That was a lot of sleep for me. And that night I slept 12 hours. So I woke up, I'm like, oh my God. I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, I love the world. During that same experience, I had this revelation that my mom had died, because I literally had this vision of my mom sitting in the corner. I went to him and I said, if my mom died, don't tell me. Don't tell me till it's over, but I think she's gone. And I'm at peace with it because I forgave her. And I've forgiven what happened, and I love her, and I thank her for just doing her best. She did the best she could. He came back a few hours later, he's like, she's not dead, but she's not doing very well. She's in the hospital. And it's not good. So then we went through, kind of hung out a little bit, and we took another drug, and it's called 5-MeO-DMT. And like hyperbaric chamber, 5-MeO-DMT is the only known drug that actually cures brain tissue. So I got blown up. I had a massive brain injury, lots of macroblast injuries. I was a breacher. I taught breaching. Shit, I wrote half the damn curriculum. And we didn't know any of the rules back then. We were using K6 as a factor instead of K18 and K9. So we were right there, turning our back on it and blowing it. And I don't even know how many. I stopped keeping track after about 1,000 shots. So that kind of tells you that. And so I took this drug, and again, more revelations. And I woke up from the series, this 3 series, and on the 3rd series, I woke up and I looked at Dr. Planko and said, I don't ever want to kill another man. I don't ever want to harm another human being ever again. I don't ever want to have anger. And it was the first time I ever understood what love was. I was so in love with my wife. And during this whole time that's going on, I kept asking this medication, as they talk to it like it's God, right? It's kind of crazy. And I'm like, show me my wife. Show me the one good thing that I've ever had that wouldn't show me. Never show me my wife, but this purple rain would fall over me. And right at the peak of this nastiness that's going on, this trauma, this purple rain would come and wash it away. And it was in that moment that I realized my wife was my purple rain. My wife was the only good thing that I've ever had in my life. And she should have left me 100 freaking times. Some of you guys might know I went through a full murder trial. All right, I did the one thing SEALs are supposed to do. I chased bad guys, I hunted them, I got rid of them, and then they put me on trial for it. And I beat it and walked away and found I didn't do anything, but I was angry about it. And my wife, every amount of money that she made as a realtor went to defend me in my trial. I would have left me. And then there was the business. Big successful business as big as this, and then it failed. I would have left me. And so on and so on and so on and so on. And I realized, holy shit, I only have one good thing in my life. And I have these beautiful, amazing children that are my legacy. Not the SEAL teams, that's not my legacy. Not winning games and all this other, that's my legacy. And I left that therapy with this massive understanding of things that I totally did not even understand as a SEAL. I understood brotherhood for the first time. And in the teams, you understand it, but you don't really understand it. In that moment, I'm like, holy crap, I get it now. I love these guys so much. I fucking love them, right? I learned about mission. I'm like, I want to do something. I want to start helping these guys understand. I want them to feel what I'm feeling. Helping Dr. Planko send guys to Mexico. And I started helping find ways to find money for this program. And it was awesome. And then next thing you know, my friend called and he said, I have a problem. And I said, okay, here's what I did. And after that therapy, I'd done stem cell therapy, intravenous stem cell therapy. I'd done hyperbaric chamber again. I'd done the brain magnet. I've done all these things trying to build this roadmap as a guinea pig to figure out what was the matter with us. And I started figuring it out, not in a scientific way, just a barbarian way, right? So we went down and I brought my friend down and my friend scared me. I could feel something coming out of him, this rage, this anger, this hatred. And as he went through his journey at the end of it, at the very end of his journey, he woke up and I said, Drago, are you okay? He said, don't call me Drago again. I'm Thomas. I want to call my wife. And in that moment, it all made sense to me right there. It all made sense to me of what my career should be. How do we get SEALs to the Bahamas to get stem cell therapy and psychedelic therapy? How do we start saving lives? And in that moment, we're kind of sitting there and something miraculous happens again. I get a phone call, and I'm like, what's up? Remember, I just got 1 year before that, was gonna get fired. And they called and they said, hey, how would you like to be the chief of staff? Excuse me? Like, sir, you'd like to know if you want to be the chief of staff. And I'm blown away. Because when you're at Bayshore Global, you can't own stock. You're not allowed to own stock because you're aware of intimate knowledge within the company. So they'll give you bonuses. And I'm sitting there, and this is a life-changing job opportunity. And I came out of the bedroom, and I told Michael, and they said, I just got offered the greatest job anybody could ever have. And he goes, screw that, come be my chief of staff. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, there's no way you can even match this, you know? And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I remember sitting there for like 30 seconds. Like, I want to help my bros. He goes, then come help me do it. And so, like Admiral Richards, I had to call my wife and say, hey, honey, I just turned down $1.5 million salary for your job. I'm going to go work for Michael in Nashville. She was like, huh? I'm like, I don't know. This feels right. With my entire goal being one thing. And this is something I didn't learn until about 2.5 years ago. During all the riots, when all the riots were over, my body armor's sitting next to my bed, my helmet, everything's right there, right? When the riots were over, I remember grabbing my body armor. And I'm like, holy shit, this is heavy. And I thought to myself right there, I'm like, I can never wear this body armor again. I don't have the ability to. I want to. My brain says it can, but my back is broken, my shoulders are blown out, I have a fake knee, I have a fake hip. I can't wear that. I can't do this job anymore. I remember sitting on my bed, just kind of sitting there for a long time, and I remember kind of just sitting there going, I don't want to either. I'm not a SEAL anymore. I was. I'm just an old football coach. I'm just a guy now trying to help my brothers get therapy and get help. This is a young man's job. How do I grab those young men when they're done with this career and show them there's a different way? Show them how to be family men again, and husbands and fathers and members of the community, and understand that what they did was the most greatest job ever, and it's okay to let it go. And it's a process, a very, very big process. Frogmen need missions. Why? Because we're pit bulls, right? All these guys writing books about leadership? No, you don't lead frogmen. You pull on the leash and keep us from freaking going. You're not leading us. You don't lead me. I don't need to be led. You need to pull on the leash, keep you from getting into trouble. But if you don't put us to work, we're going to pee in the corner and chew on the furniture. We're going to start fights. So I needed to find a way to give guys a mission. So we created the biggest and largest and most highly funded private humanitarian team in the world that has no press whatsoever. There's over 170 members of this humanitarian team. And so all these other organizations, CARE International, Stars to Strike, all these things go around the world. We actually fund those programs, and we send SEALs, Harvard Humanitarian, and Stanford Medicine teams along with those teams. They take all the credit. We don't even discuss it. Our guys jump out of jets. They have their own aircraft. We have massive programs. We're rescuing whales, doing all kinds of stuff all over the world, and the guys are happy. They're happy. As long as you have the right people helping and the right people understanding what everybody in this room plays a part in it. If you're one of those guys who's sitting in the darkness and wondering, hey man, I'm ashamed or fucking it isn't working, you're not alone. I'm here to tell you, I'm an alcoholic. I'm 4 years sober. I'm a freaking alcoholic. I don't have an MBA. I barely graduated high school. It took me 7 years to get a bachelor's, right? I'm the guy who stood on the one side of the Grand Canyon with a dart and threw it and hit a bullseye. But I want to help you guys. I want to get you help. I want to get your brains healed, your bodies healed, and I want to get you jobs. Because I know so many people who want to hire you. I want you guys, you SEALs in here, you young guys, understand something. You will eat people's lunch in the business world. Do not ever, ever doubt yourself. Don't ever in a million years think you don't belong in those corporate rooms. You will absolutely eat their lunch. They cannot compete with you. You work harder, you're smarter, you will never, ever quit. That I know, because that's why I hire guys like you. And I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I love the death out of you. I will go to battle with you anytime, and I will answer the phone anytime you call me. Anytime you call one of us, we will freaking help you. Cool? Thank you guys so much.
Dear Dad, you've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That is where you came from and where you'll return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity. Lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up, often. You didn't come here to be perfect, you already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed and fabulous, and then to rise again into remembering. But unconditional love, we'll stop telling that story. Love and truth doesn't need any other adjectives. It doesn't require modifiers. It doesn't require the condition of perfection. It only asks that you show up and you do your best. That you stay present and feel fully, that you shine and fly and laugh and cry and hurt and heal and fall and get back up and play and work and live and die as you. It's enough. It's plenty.
Bobby Ramirez, Howard Wasden, Bert Calland, Mike Day, Dan Cirillo, Steve Granger, Mike Geyer, Tom Rancich, Pierre Ponson, Mike Bailey, William Gardner, Frank Walters, Steve Dart, Pete Carolan, Bill Burbank, Dwayne Knoll, James Bulow.
Memorial Day 2023. I would like to recognize some of our fallen brothers. Edward Hebert, Ron Bellin, Thomas Marr, Adam Brown, Mark Lee, David Collins, Glenn Collins, Brian Olette, Kevin Houston, Bobby Ramirez, Joe Pierce, Jason Pruitt, Nathan Hardy and Michael Koch. Thank you for your sacrifices. You will never be forgotten.
This Memorial Day, I'm remembering our SEAL Team 3, Task Unit Bruiser, fallen heroes. Starting with my son, Mark Allen Lee. Mike Mon Sewer, Ryan Job, Chris Kyle, Seth Stone. Mama Lee will never forget you, and I won't ever forget your families. Hoo-yah, Task Unit Bruiser.
Daniel Dalton, Austin Irby, Jerry Meyer, Ross Thrift, Philip Sawwald, Ralph Leonard, Robert Moyer, Brandon Norbury, Lawrence McDonald, Joseph Poster, Joseph Villa, James Price, Jeffrey Lauder, Jack Furiaro, Joseph Heinlein, Eugene Mayung. Long live the Brotherhood. Hoo-yah.
This is Tage Gill, checking in from Idaho. Dan Cirillo, Taco, Scotty Brockman, Mongo, Ty Woods, Glenn Doherty, Jason Campbell, Lance Vaccaro, Mike Bearden, Adam Brown, Tom Retzer,
Don Taco Cirillo, Chuck Allen, Willie Wilson, Eric Anderson, Dennis Richardson, Robert Clark, Lawrence Molina, Keen Brantley, Michael Ireland, Ronald Lester, Christopher Robbie, James Jones. And to the Brotherhood.
Every year, we remember our fallen. This list includes frogmen from all generations. Some who put me through training, some who I put through training, and some who I served with. This list also includes my son, Robert Brian Guzzo, Jack Keller, Michael Ernst, Robert Ramirez, Daniel Dalton, Austin Irby, Hugh Lansden, Billy Ray Ledford, Tad Devine, Sonny Latham, Richard Swenson, Daniel Swift, Billy Presnell, Hugh Dunseth, Gerald Hackman, Peter Grubb, Chuck Holler, Arthur Smith, Louis Elfrink, John Connors, Mike Bailey, Don McFall, Chris Thielman, Isaac Rodriguez III, Richard Bond, Billy Machin, Chester Craig, Matthew Burjoy, Louis McIntosh, Brian Lippy, Steve Bukowski, Ted Fitzhenry, Steve Clark, Leon Pepper Tagle, Mike Oyer, David LeConte, Dwayne Knoll, Job Price, Gary Well, Patrick Delaney Feeks, James Jimmy Jones, Ryan Francis Larkin, and Mark Lee. Now please take a moment to find a drink for our memorial toast that follows as led by our teammate Gil Espinoza. I will join Gil in lifting my glass for a toast to the Brotherhood. Long live the Brotherhood.
I'm Gil Espinoza, Buds Class 42. I'm honored and blessed to give the toast to our fallen brothers for this year's Frogman Down. All of us frogmen have had to confront the issue as to whether our desire to be a frogman was from our heart or from our ego. The construct of our training sculpted the answer to that question. If the choice is from our heart, we prevail. If it's from our ego, then the path was lonely and we led to failure. The metamorphosis from I want to be a frogman to I must be a frogman is the one key to thrive. I'd rather die than quit is the mantra of each tadpole that will enter into the pain, the training every day in the extreme emotional and physical elements of that journey. The tadpole journey from frog to seal is from the legacy of our ancestors, the NCDUs, and their foundation. We become frogmen. The price to achieve the name, teammate, and to live in the brotherhood is birthed in the ocean, our mother. We run on the hard and soft confines of her beach. We were linked together with our brothers, arm in arm, on our backs, swallowing the crashing waves. Don't let go, we said, as we braved the breaking waves. Don't let go. With all our mind, we held on and we conquered the evolutions. We are as the sands on the beach, each grain broken away from the undersea mountains. Different colors, different sizes. We were holding back the crashing waves. And now we're scattered. Some are dragged back out to sea, some are pounded into the sound, and some are blown into the hinterland. The only easy day was yesterday, and we regroup on our next set of waves. We link back up again. I can't change the temperature of the ocean, but I can endure and I can prevail to become a frogman. Amphibians we are, living strong in the sea, in the air, and in the land. As holding our breath on a free dive, we break water, and the breath of life inspires us to be all who we are, fighting for our freedom, answering the call to fight for the freedom of our people, is accepting the sacrificial responsibility. Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. To quote a teammate of mine who is down now, if I die fighting for my country, my family, and my friends, I have led a good life. Our brothers have died in many battles on foreign soils, in training, and in the painful struggles of silent wounds, never seen, but nonetheless lethal. I'm currently undergoing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and I'm abstaining from alcohol during this time. But however, it is fitting that I offer this toast where we frogmen came. To our brothers who have taken point for us, the Brotherhood lives in spirit forever. We will tell your stories and we will remember your names. I'm taking a moment to see your face. Hooyah to the teams, frogmen all. Thank you, God, for this blessing. Hooyah.
Thank you for joining us at Frogman Down 2023. Please stay as we close the program with the scrolling of names of our fallen from the beginning of the teams. We are grateful you made the time to join us in remembering our fallen brothers and honoring their legacy. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Have a great evening, and God bless America.
hear people say we don't need this war. I say there's some things worth fighting for. What about our freedom and this piece of ground? We didn't get to keep them by backing down. They say we don't realize the mess we're getting in. Before you start your preaching, let me ask you this, my friend. Have you forgotten how it felt that day to see your homeland under fire and her people blown away? Have you forgotten when those towers fell? We had neighbors still inside, going through a living hell. And you say we shouldn't worry about Bin Laden. Have you forgotten? They took all the footage off my TV, said it's too disturbing for you and me. It'll just breed anger, that's what the experts say. If it was up to me, I'd show it every day. Some say this country's just out looking for a fight. After 9/11, man, I'd have to say that's right. Have you forgotten how it felt that day to see your homeland under fire and her people blown away? Have you forgotten when those towers fell? We had neighbors still inside, going through a living hell. Yeah, thanks to some sick bastard named Bin Laden. Have you forgotten? Been there with the soldiers who've gone away to war. You can bet that they remember just what they're fighting for. Have you forgotten all the people killed? Yeah, some went down like heroes in that Pennsylvania field. Have you forgotten about our Pentagon? All the loved ones that we lost and those left to carry on. Now we don't have to worry about Bin Laden. Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten?